What's up, everybody? Doomwake here, and welcome to another edition of the Modern Metagame, your weekly resource for everything that is going on in the modern format. Today, I have a couple of events for you that we're going to take a look at, and before we continue, just make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments section below what are your thoughts on the Modern Metagame. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what events we're going to be looking at today. Alright, so first and foremost, we have the Saturday Showcase. That's right, not the challenge. So normally on Magic Online every weekend, there are the weekly Saturday and Sunday challenges. Whenever they have the Showcase events, they replace the challenge for that format on that day. So we have the Showcase event, which is a little bit more high profile because there's more at stake. The prizes in terms of monetary wise, they're about the same, if not a little bit better in the Showcase, but the top 8 players get to play. It's sort of like the ladder, the stepping stone to the actual Magic Online Championships themselves. So the Showcases are a little bit more higher profile. So we're going to take a look at the Showcase from Saturday, the regular weekly challenge on Sunday, and then we also have an NRG Milwaukee 5K event that took place as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the Saturday Showcase. Alright, so starting off with the Saturday Showcase event, we have first place here, 4-color Yorion. This is a lot of stuff that we've seen before. Some of the numbers are a little different, but for the most part, it's kind of all the same stuff. 4 Fury, 4 Solitude, we got some Ice Fangs, Omnaths, 4, basically all 4-ofs, which I do kind of like. It's a lot more of a cleaner deck list, and I think you get more mileage out of playing all 4-ofs, especially in 80 cards when you draw your 2 and 3-ofs less often. So I think almost all 4-of approach makes a lot of sense. We still have the one Time Warp hanging out here for, when you're going long and need something with Red and 6 and Ephemerate Witness. But yeah, 4-color Yorion here in first place of the Saturday Showcase. In second place, we have some blue-red Murktide. Is it Murktide, as it were? The flex slots here, we have 1 Brazen Borrower, 2 Serum Visions, 1 Archmage's Charm, 1 Engineered Explosives, Consider Over Thoughtscar. I think that's become a staple at this point. 2 Spell Pierces, and then everything else is pretty much the same. 2 Blood Moons, 2 Jaces. There's not really a ton of differences on these blue-red Murktide lists over the past couple of weeks, but still definitely a very good deck and one that you have to respect here in second place. In third place, we have something that we haven't seen a ton of over the past couple of weeks, and that is Black-Green Yawgmoth. Deck utilizing Yawgmoth, Ran Physician. There's an infinite combo if you combine it with 2 other undying creatures like Young Wolf and Strangleroot Geist. Allows you to draw a bunch of cards. You can eventually kill your opponent with Blood Artist triggers. There's a lot to like about this deck list. I think this is pretty similar to what Demonic Tutors has been playing. They are a big fan of Yawgmoth and playing a ton of it. The main deck Endurance gone down to 1 Messenger, which is kind of cool. We get a main deck Scavenging Ooze here, which is pretty nice. Sideboard, Crime Punishment, Endurance, Force of Vigor, Necromentia. A lot of cool stuff here. So third place, we got some Golgari Yawgmoth. Coming in fourth place, we have some Jund Saga. This is a Jund mid-range deck based around Urza's Saga. We have 4 Ren and 6, Channeler, Ragavan, Tarmogoyf. I'm sure you've all seen this stuff before. 2 Decay, 2 Fatal Push, no main deck Kolaghan's Command. We have that in the sideboard, along with 2 Spellbomb, 3 Engineered Explosives, our Lurrus. There was a list last week, if you remember, that didn't have Lurrus, and they played Liliana and Bonecrusher instead. I am pretty sure that you're supposed to play with Lurrus, but that's just my personal opinion. Thoughtseize Chalice, kind of rounding out the sideboard here. Fourth place, Jund Saga. Fifth place, we got some Hammer Time. Now, this is kind of the new technology here, Core Outfitter. So it's a 2/2 for 2, and when it comes into play, you can attach an equipment you control to a creature. So basically, it allows you to kind of give you more ways to equip your hammers if you don't have a Sigarda's Aid or a Pure Steel Paladin. And I think that's kind of nice. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of this other stuff here is pretty straightforward. There's only 1 Mishra's Bauble, which I find kind of interesting. I guess that's kind of where you just have to make cuts. 3 Inkmoth Nexus. Sideboard, we got a Manriki Gusari for the Mirror, which I kind of like. All 4 Thoughtseizes, which I do like as well. Some Sanctifiers, and our Lurrus, of course. But that is 5th place, Hammer Time. In 6th place, we have another Hammer Time deck list, but this one, as you can see, is a little bit different. So we've decided to cut the core outfitters along with some of the one-ofs for Urza Saga, and we're playing with Ancient Stirrings, which is a very interesting addition and one that I think makes a pretty good amount of sense because it finds Urza Saga, Inkmoth Nexus, Cranial Plating, Colossus Hammer, and then it finds a 0-drop if you need that. The one thing I will say is it doesn't find Sigarda's Aid or Puresteel Paladin, which is definitely, a reason to not play the card. But basically, they've replaced the, what was that card? The 2-mana 1/1. The name is escaping me. Ingenious Smith. They've replaced Ingenious Smith with Ancient Stirrings, which, Smith didn't find those white cards as well, but Stirrings has additional upside because it can find land, so that's kind of cool. Cathar Commando, and there's also Gaia's Blessing for the mill matchup, and then 3 copies of Veil of Summer in the sideboard as well, which definitely come in against the discard and removal heavy Rakdos and Grixis decks. So 6th place, Green-White Hammer. In 7th place, we have my personal favorite of the top 8, mostly because I've been working on this deck a ton, and actually there's a couple of videos in the channel if you want to go check it out. But this is Boros Obosh Prowess. Hotterho, I actually, I'm in a group chat with them, and we talk a lot about the Prowess archetype. They're in the Discord. And this is kind of the deck list they've settled on, which pretty much is my exact deck list, except I have minus a light up the stage for a 21st land. But there's a lot to like about this deck. Chandra Just to Kill has really impressed me. This is a really good main deck Blood Moon deck. This deck is nice because it really plays both sides of the spectrum very well. It has aggressive draws with, the Prowess creatures and Lava Dart and cheap removal, but it also can play a really nice long game with Chandra and Den of the Bugbear and Obosh. There's a lot of stuff going on here where I think that this deck kind of gets to play both ends of the spectrum very well. So there we go in 7th place with Boros Obosh. And rounding out the top 8, we have a Hardened Scales deck. This is kind of a blast from the past. This deck utilizes Hardened Scales and a bunch of modular creatures, Arcbound Ravager, Arcbound Worker, Zabaz, along with Hangerback and Walking Ballista to kind of give you some more stuff to do with counters, Ancient Stirrings to find all your combo pieces, Ozolith, which works really nicely with modular creatures and sacrifice outlets because you get to kind of double up on the counters. There's even a one of Goblin Bombardment, which is really interesting. Inkmoth Nexus to combo kill with Ravager, Urza Saga, of course, because we're playing Modern, you gotta play Urza Saga. And then in the sideboard, we have some other cool one-ofs to go get with Urza Saga, like Animation Module, Relic of Progenitus, Soul Guide Lantern, and then some good removal spells and just general good sideboard cards. So that is 8th place, Celestia, or I guess this is Naya, Hardened Scales. But that covers the Saturday showcase. Let's take a look at the Sunday challenge. Alright, for the Sunday challenge, we're going to be starting off with first place here, 4-color Yorion. I was barely able to fit the entire deck list on the screen. There's too many one-ofs and a lot of stuff going on here. So this is 2 Fury, 2 Witness, not the 4-ofs that we've seen in the last showcase. 1 Wandering Mind, a Counterspell of Veto, lots of interesting 1 and 2-ofs here, Spreading Seas, 3 copies. Moving on to the sideboard, we got our Yorion, 2 Relic of Progenitus, which is something I feel like I haven't seen before in these deck lists. That's kind of interesting. Veil of Summer, Helix, Explosives, Alpine Moon, Spreading Seas. But yeah, this is the 4-color Yorion, a little bit more focused on the 1 and 2-ofs aspect here, but still a 4-color Yorion deck in first place. Second place, we got some Grixis Death Shadow here. This is very similar to the Soulstrong list. For some reason, I can't highlight the Lurrus, but it is a Lurrus deck, I promise you. 2 Kroxa, 4 Ragavan, Shadow Channeler, 2 Inquisition, a Push, a Kolaghan's Command, a Lightning Bolt, 2 main deck Dress Downs. Sideboard, we have an additional copy of Dress Down, a Gut Shot, that's kind of cool, 2 Spellbomb, 2 Terminate, 2 Turok. This is pretty similar to what Soulstrong has been playing here in second place, Grixis Shadow. Speaking of Soulstrong, here in third place, we have the man himself, Soulstrong. Still playing Grixis Shadow. This is, I think, the exact same main deck, Push, Kolaghan's Command, Bolt. Same main deck as the last one we've seen, the Gut Shot. So that's a Soulstrong innovation to up. I think it's the exact same 75, so not going to spend some time here. But third place, we got the man himself, Soulstrong, Grixis Shadow. Fourth place, we got kind of a deck that has sort of fallen off the face of the earth, for lack of a better term here. We have Temur Crashgate. Now, this is not my list with main, or I guess mine/Giglio's list with main deck Blood Moon, nor is it Bogabees' list with main deck Cryptic Commands. This person decided to go with 4 main deck copies of Endurance. as the additional flex spots. Pretty much, this deck is basically a 56 card deck. There's really only 4 cards you can change, and it's those 4 cards right there. I guess there's a Prismari command hanging out here too. But yeah, there's not a lot of wiggle room in this deck per se. But it's kind of cool when you main deck the Endurances, you do get some additional sideboard space to play other cards that you wouldn't normally play, because your sideboard, like, you kind of have to have Blood Moon, Force, and Dispute somewhere in the sideboard unless you main deck the Blood Moons. That's kind of what I've been doing. That's how I've been making up my sideboard space. But here we have a Chandra and 2 Thrun as the additional sideboard cards. Good against control, because the Teamer deck does kind of struggle against control. But here in 4th place, we have some Teamer Crash Gate. Here in 5th place, we got TSP Yendrick, very good Magic Online, a very good player, just in general, playing some Grixis Control. So this is I know that Yendrick is a big anti-Death Shadow player, and they play pretty much just like the minimal amount of win conditions here. Ragavan, Snapcaster, Mage. We are still Lurrus deck, obviously, but it's more of like just like really trying to play towards the long game. 4 Snapcaster Mage, 3 Kolaghan's Command, Cling to Dust as well, playing towards the long game, and then we kind of just bury our opponent with Iteration and Snapcaster Mage, Kolaghan's Command, along with Lurrus, which we can rebuy over and over again. Some interesting cards in the sideboard here. Counterspell when you need just a versatile answer, which is kind of cool. There's a Painful Truths and a Memory Deluge to help you even go a little bit longer. Some additional discard spells. Just a really cool, interesting take on the Grixis archetype. If you're not a big fan of Shadow and you want to play more of a control deck, this is probably the one for you here in 5th place. Here in 6th place, we have an interesting take on the sort of 4/5 color Yorion Blink deck. So we're playing with 4 copies of Bring to Light, which is sort of like another win condition. But the nice thing about Bring to Light is it really gives you the ability to play some interesting one-ofs that you wouldn't normally have access to. Like here we have a Charmaw, a Valky, God of Lies. That's the common play pattern with Bring to Light. You Bring to Light for Valky. When do you Bring to Light for Valky? You can cast the other half, which I don't think I can flip it over here. But the other half is Tibalt, Cosmic Imposter. It's a 7-mana Planeswalker that you can cast for 5 mana, which is kind of this the appeal to playing Bring to Light. But if you look at the sideboard, we get some cool one-ofs too, like a Collector Oof and a Meddling Mage. Those are really good in specific matchups, so it kind of gives you a higher threat density and also some different utility in the sideboard. So if you're kind of sick of the 4-color Yorion deck, maybe this is a new take here in 6th place, 5-color Bring to Light. 7th place, we got some Hammer Time. This is pretty standard Hammer Time with Giver of Runes as the last flex slot. No black cards, Colossus Hammer, a Needle, a Plating, a Shadow Spear, Draenith, Ending, Seal, Sanctifier, sideboard. Pretty standard stuff here in 7th place, Hammer Time. And rounding out the top 8, we have Crusherbot playing some of their traditional, well, I guess it's, if you follow Crusherbot, you know that they don't usually like to play Lurrus, so it's traditional for them, but not traditional for most everybody else that hasn't seen this deck before. But yeah, as you can see, there's no Lurrus. We're going with a Nettle Cyst and a Sword of Fire and as Stoneforge Mystic targets, which is why we can't companion Lurrus. And we also have a Sword of Sinew and Steel and a Sword of War and Peace in the sideboard. So there's, if you want to get a little bit more utility and versatility out of your Stoneforge Mystics, this might be a good way to go. Personally, I would still probably recommend playing Lurrus, but, Crusherbot has been doing, fairly well with this particular take on it. They have a decent amount of top 8s, so just a different take on Hammer Time if you're looking for some spice. Now that we've taken a look at the Sunday Challenge, let's go ahead and take a look at the NRG 5K. Alright, so the formatting on these are going to be a little bit different, but we do have the deck list. That's the important part. So first place, we have Sultai Infect. This is very similar, if you remember, the MTG Las Vegas deck list, with 4 copies of Phyrexian Crusader. It's basically, it's sort of like a mono green deck that's just playing 4 Bladed Agent, 4 Phyrexian Crusader, and then just pretty much all green spells, 8 Hierarchs, a bunch of green pump spells, the mana base, and then sideboard 4 Endurance, 4 Force of Vigor. That's a pretty loud statement, and then Spell Pierce, Fatal Push, Fatal of Summer. Just a really clean deck list, and maybe Infect is back on the map. But here we have first place Sultai Infect. Second place, we got some Hammer Time. This is the 2-core Outfitter version. We also have a Gingerbread here, which is kind of cool to go get with Urza Saga. That makes a lot of sense. Everything else pretty much the same. I think this might be the exact same list from the Saturday showcase, or at least pretty similar to it. Main deck Thoughtseize. I think maybe the main deck Thoughtseize is different, but Seal of Cleansing, Prismatic Ending, Defense Grid, Sanctifier. A lot of good stuff in the sideboard here, but second place, Hammer Time. And in third place, we got some 4-color Yorion. This is very similar to the version that we saw from the Saturday showcase, pretty much all 4 ofs. Witness, Fury, Omnath, Solitude, even the one-time warp, the 2 Force Negation, so I think the main deck is pretty much the exact same. The sideboard's a little bit different here, Helix, Moon, Endurance. Some of the numbers have changed. We had an Emrakul in the sideboard as well, but for the most part, very, very similar stuff to what we saw from the Saturday showcase, and here in third place with 4-color Yorion. Fourth place, we got some Rakdos Lurrus here. This is very similar to what Aspiring Spike has been playing, Channeler, Ragavan. We got an extra Voidwalker here. I think Spike was on 2 Voidwalkers. We got, oh no, excuse me, this is Urza's Saga. I didn't notice the Sagas because for some reason they put Saga in the enchantment instead of along with the land. So this is Rakdos Saga. This is more of the Andrew Tenjum build of Rakdos here on Holy Heat, Kolaghan's Command. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. So this is basically Rakdos with the Saga package. I'm not sure if this would be my preferred version of Rakdos. I think I like the non-Saga version a little bit better, but definitely a basically the Jund Saga deck with slightly better mana with a little bit downgraded in threats because you don't have access to Goyf and Ren and 6. So that's kind of the issue there. But some interesting sideboard options too, like Legion's End, a card you don't see very, very often here. Chalice Explosive. So yeah, this is Rakdos Saga here in fourth place. Fifth place, we got some Golgari Yawgmoth. This is 2 Grist the Hunger Tide. I think we saw 3 in the last version that we looked at. Hierarch, Young Wolf, all that stuff seems to be the same. 3 Strangleroot Guys, 2 Geralf's Messenger. That's an interesting decision there. A Hapatra, a Prosperous Innkeeper. Those are kind of cool. Deciding to play Zulaport Cutthroat over Blood Artist. I'm not exactly sure what the differences are. Well, the main difference is that Cutthroat only targets off of your stuff. Blood Artist triggers off of your opponent's stuff as well. So that's something to consider when you're deciding between those 2 cards. And then Force of Vigor, Chalice, Endurance, additional Grist in the sideboard. No crime punishments here, which is interesting. But yeah, 5th place, we got some Golgari Yawgmoth. 6th place, we got some blue-white Kahira control. This is Kahira. I like how they put the Kahira in the sideboard as well as the companion, just to kind of confuse me. Because usually on the Magic Online formatting, they just put it in the sideboard. But we got 4 Ravelers, 2 Hero of Dominarias, 1 Jace, Solitude, main deck Chalice, only 1 Shark Typhoon, 3 Supreme Verdict, 2 Memory Deluge. So a lot of these numbers look pretty similar to what we are used to. Less Shark, or I think the last list, I want to say the last list we had less Chalices, more Typhoons main deck, and then moved the Chalices to the sideboard. But I think that's kind of like the card that kind of gets swapped around a little bit depending on where the metagame is. So that's something to consider there. Dress Down is a cool sideboard card. Rest in Peace. Another Chalice, a Fracturing Gust, and Emrakul. Ooh. But there's some cool stuff going on here in our 6th place deck list, Blue-Eye Control. 7th place, we got some Hammer Time. This is 2 Core Outfitter, 1 Ginger Brute, Cranial Plating, Shadow Spear. This is very similar to the list that we saw from 2nd place without the main deck Thoughtseize. I think everything else is pretty much the same. And then moving on to the sideboard, 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Sanctifier. That's a pretty big statement. I actually kind of like that a bit, because Sanctifier is the best card against these Rakdos and Grixis decks. Seal of Cleansing, Path to Exile, and then rounding out the sideboard with some Urza Saga targets here in our 7th place Hammer Time deck list. And rounding out the top 8, we have Grixis Death Shadow, Channeler, Ragavan, Shadow, Kroxa. This looks I think this is identical to the Soul Strong deck list. Brutality, Turok, Spellbomb, Kolaghan's Command, Aether Gust. Yeah, I think this is pretty much the exact same list that Soul Strong's been playing. Maybe these 4 flex spots might be changed around. I can't keep track of all the different flex slots with all these different decks, but these might be changed. For the most part, I think everything else is pretty much the same here. But rounding out the top 8, we got some Grixis Shadow. Now that we've taken a look at all 3 of the top 8s individually, let's go ahead and throw them all on the screen at the same time so you can take a look at kind of what the metagame looks like from a broad perspective. Alright, so after taking a look at the individual top 8s, this is kind of where we are at in the metagame. The one thing that you'll notice, there's 2 copies of Hammer Time in each individual top 8. There is minimum 1 copy of 4-color in each top 8, and the Sunday Challenge did have 2 copies of 4-color, even though one of them was the Bring to Light version. and there's at least a copy of Grixis Shadow in each of these. Oh no, there's no Grixis Shadow in Saturday. My apologies. But for the most part, I mean, other than Hammer Time being 2 copies in each top 8, we didn't really have that many repeats. And a lot of interesting new decks here. We have Black Green Yawgmoth showing up again, Jund Saga. That is, a deck that there's not a ton of Jund Saga going around in these top 8s, but something that's showing up. We got a Red-White Prowess, Hardened Scales, Temur Crashcade making a comeback, still some control moving around. So for the most part, I think the format is pretty good right now. And even within the Hammer Time deck list and the 4-color deck list, there's a lot of innovation. Again, we talked about the 4-color Bring to Light version of Yorion. We talked about Hammer Time adding green. There's also a Hammer Time deck list that didn't play Lurrus, so there's a lot of, things to think about with Hammer Time and 4-color, even though they, if I had to pick the 3 best decks in the format right now, in no particular order, by the way, I would say Hammer Time, Grixis Shadow, and 4-color Yorion are certainly the top 3. But I don't know if it's by, a significant enough margin. There are still plenty of other decks that you can play. So I think Modern's great. I wouldn't change anything. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you thought in the comment section below, and I will see everybody in the next episode of the Modern Metagame. Bye-bye.